One Piece's Onigashima raid serves as the climax of the Yonko saga, delivering an ending to over 360 chapters of build-up. The raid on its own is 77 chapters long, longer than some manga could ever hope to be. This arc gave us a lot of fights, and thanks to this Reddit post, I was able to identify every important fight. So today we'll be ranking and rating all 13 of them. Before we start, I just want to say that this video is entirely my opinion, and if your favorite fight is lower on the list, that does not mean I'm saying your opinion is wrong. Got it? Okay, let's begin. Number 13. Nami, Usopp, Tama, Zeus, and Big Mom vs. Ulti in page 1. Nami and Usopp are two of my favorite Straw Hats, and just two of my favorite One Piece characters in general, and Ulti and page 1 are my favorite Beast Pirates, so it saddens me to say that this fight is probably one of the worst in the entire series. I'd go as far to say it's a waste of time that could have been given to, giving Kaido a backstory. But anyway, let me break it down. The beginning of this fight is actually pretty good. We have 2/3 of the Coward Trio versus the hot-headed Ulti and her brother page 1. We finally get Nami's Luffy become the king of the pirates moment, and some good old comedic moments from our Straw Hats and their foes. Then this fight becomes an absolute wild goose chase. At some point they pick up Tama, and without her presence, Nami and Usopp just lose this fight. But there's the Ulti in page 1 or Big fucking Mom, who is also involved in this fight for some reason. The Big Mom part of this fight angers me for many reasons, and we'll get to those here. First of all, I think it's incredibly obvious that page 1 and Ulti, especially Ulti, are way too strong for Nami and Usopp. I think having Ulti clash with Luffy and Yamato, even if it's briefly, is dumb, because Ulti should be getting folded no difficulty by either of them. Instead, Ulti's able to catch Luffy lacking after he says he's going to take the fight seriously, and forces him to think he needs to go Gear 4. I'm not saying Ulti is Gear 4 level, I think she's getting one shot, by the way. And she takes the Thunder Bagua from Yamato and gets up. This causes the need for someone who can deal actual damage to Ulti page 1 to show up, so Big Mom drops from the heavens. I think mothering mode is weird, but not as horrible as others seem to make it. I think having her one-shot page 1 with Conquerors is stupid, because she never uses it again for plot convenience. And then instead of using it on Ulti, she uses Maester Cannon to deplete her health bar just enough for Nami to get the win. I hate this fight. Nami gets a cool power-up, which is more than I can say for Usopp, who does almost nothing. Frankie and Brook don't get power-ups either in their fights, but at least they do something. Anyway, yeah, this fight sucks. Pretty bad. 4 out of 10. Number 12, Raizo vs. Fukudo Kuju. The theme behind this fight is actually pretty good, as the majority of it focuses on Raizo being able to withstand being paralyzed and on fire. This is a good development for Raizo because he was the only one to complain about the heat of the pot that Odin was boiling in. Other than this, the fight is pretty mid and actually became a meme since it was the second to last fight to end of the entire arc. At least I think that's how it happened, I don't know. It definitely is not as bad as Nami and Usopp vs. Ulti in page 1 since it only actually takes up 10 pages. 5 out of 10. Number 11, Killer vs. Hawkins. This fight would be much higher if I didn't know how it would end from the very beginning. From the very moment it was revealed that Hawkins had a straw doll of Kid, I and many other people knew the best way to defeat Hawkins was to cut off his left arm since Kid doesn't have one. I will say that the artwork in this fight, especially at the end, is amazing. 6 out of 10. Number 10, Frankie vs. Sasuke. Before rereading this fight for this video, I would have genuinely put it in the top 6. However, after rereading, I realized that I was on crack and that this fight is kind of mid. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it doesn't really do anything amazing enough for me to put it any higher. But I'm a huge Frankie fan, so I'm putting it here. 6 out of 10. Number 9, Jinbei vs. Who's Who. I'd say the difference between this fight and the last fight is decently big. Who's Who is definitely the most interesting Topioppo, lore-wise of course, and this fight mostly serves as an info dump that sets up the end of Luffy vs. Kaido. Who's Who being racist turned into a meme for a while, which was funny, but my only real complaint with this fight is that the final hit is a bit anticlimactic, and a lot of the community, including myself, didn't think it was actually over. 7 out of 10. Number 8, Robin and Brook vs. Black Maria. This fight is honestly amazing. The art, the choreography, the plot are all just great. But for real, this fight is a league above anything below it, finally giving Robin some combative shine, given that her last major fight was in Skypiea. Black Maria was really raw as well. Her close combat fighting style was amazing, and a lot of her hits just make you feel pain by looking at them. And of course I have to mention Demonio Fleur. This fight makes me very excited for future Robin fights. Brook doesn't do much here, but he acts as a hype man for Robin. I always laugh at him telling Maria that she just made a fatal mistake after making fun of Sanji before Robin does Grand Jacuzzi Clutch. 8 out of 10. Number 7. I'm gonna keep it 100% real. I do not like Yamato or Kaido, but this fight is great. Yamato's Devil Fruit being the Guardian of Wano is great, and her backstory is amazing. Kaido shows just how raw he is throughout this fight and doesn't hold back even against his own child. Yamato's ice-based moveset versus Kaido's fire moveset is cool to see. Yamato has one of my favorite character designs in general, and her hyper form did not disappoint either. Rereading this fight gave me a bit more appreciation for Yamato, but I still have some problems with the character. 8 out of 10. Number 6. Kid and Law vs Big Mom. This fight has its problems, but if you really think about it, they don't matter. A lot of people don't like that Law and Kid suddenly have their awakenings. I think this is fine for Kid, since this is really the first time we've seen him fight seriously. Law is a bit harder to excuse since not that much time has passed between Wano and Dressrosa, and Wano Law is one-shotting the Dofi that folded Dressrosa Law. I can understand the need for a sudden jump in power though. These two are fighting Big Mom, a Yonko. These two need to be powerful enough to counter the Advanced Conqueror's Haki that Big Mom uses, right? Big Mom never uses Advanced Conqueror's Haki throughout this entire fight until she's about to be defeated. The way I like to justify this is, I like to think that Oda wanted Kaido vs Luffy to be a fight focused on the higher levels of Haki, until it wasn't, and wanted this fight to be focused on the higher levels of Devil Fruits. The only thing wrong with this argument is that she used Advanced Conqueror's Haki to one-shot page 1 earlier, but didn't find it necessary to use it against Kid and Law, I guess? I know it kind of sounds like I hate this fight since I'm poking holes in it, but I do genuinely love this fight. Kid and Law bounce off each other like they've been partners for years, and their awakened abilities are incredibly badass. Big Mom also shows out in the Devil Fruit department, becoming Bigger Mom, and taking an insane amount of punishment. Krill many abilities that come with it make Law the ultimate support, while Kid is just brute force incarnate, making these two a perfect pair. 8.5 out of 10. Number 5. Zoro vs King. Man, this one's gonna make people upset. Zoro vs King is cool. This is a good fight, a great fight even. It's top 5 on this list. However, I don't like King at all. What saves this fight for me is the choreography and Zoro himself. King, to me at least, is a bum. He hardly speaks for such a long time. It literally became a meme that a lot of his speech bubbles were just filled with ellipses. His entire character is based on being a hype man for Kaido, and I'm convinced that his backstory is only there to hint at the existence of seraphims. King's powers, besides his power kinesis, also aren't all that impressive to me. King folds immediately after Zoro learns Conqueror's Haki. King literally gets 3 tapped by Zoro. I counted the panels, it's literally 3 hits. Zoro, however, is amazing in this fight. Not only is he fighting against King, he's fighting against Enema, and he's fighting against time. Zoro figuring out more about his hometown and his abilities, and just his past in general, is really satisfying to see, and him awakening Conquerors fully was also just great. I just really wish King was a better character. 9 out of 10. Zoro carried this fight. Number 4. The Red Scabbards vs Kaido. This fight has some of the best panels from all of Wano in it. Seeing the Scabbards beat down on Kaido for a while feels so cathartic, and when they're all defeated, I'm genuinely sad. They've all come so far, but it just wasn't enough to defeat Kaido. Sulong, Nekomamushi, and Inuarashi are so badass, even fucking Raizo has his moment. The flashback panels are placed perfectly, and the Scabbards feel like a real family. Like Luffy says, it's only right for the Scabbards to start off the raid, and Oda handled it perfectly. 10 out of 10. Number 3. Sanji vs Queen. God, I love this fight. I'm gonna say right now that there is some bias here because Sanji is my favorite character, but outside of that, I genuinely do love this fight. The way Sanji and Queen interact is great because Queen is everything that Sanji hates wrapped up into one big ball, and Sanji is the personification of everything Queen hates. Sanji has one of my favorite anime fighting styles, so everything he does here just looks great. This fight is funny, badass, and emotional all at the same time, which is the perfect description of Sanji in general. Seeing him come to terms with his family and discover the person he wants to be for Luffy genuinely brought me to tears. This fight is actually what cemented Sanji as my favorite character. And Sanji bringing back the All part combo and sending Queen to a different part of Wano is one of the cleanest fight finishers of all time. Queen is such a fun character to read even if he is an asshole. He's definitely my second favorite beast pirate. I think this is one of Oda's best fights, 10 out of 10. Number 2, Roof Piece. Roof Piece is one of the most hype parts of Wano in its entirety. The beginning of the fight being chapter 1000 gave everybody high expectations for the rest of it, and it 100% delivered. Roof Piece takes the leading figures of the worst generation, Massacre Soldier Killer, Eustace Captain Kidd, the Surgeon of Death, Trafalgar Law, Pirate Hunter, Roronoa Zoro, and of course Straw Hat Luffy, and puts them against two Emperors of the Sea, Kaido and Big Mom. This fight is amazing visually and really gives every character their time to shine. We truly get to see Emperors fight somewhat seriously for the first time, besides Whitebeard, and just how devastating they can be. Near the end of the fight, we get to see the long-awaited return of Ashura from Zoro, and learn that he has Conqueror's Haki as well. In the same chapter, we see Luffy figure out how to damage Kaido, picking up Advanced Conqueror's Haki in one of the most hype reveals in all of One Piece. As someone who witnessed this event when it happened for the first time in both the manga and the anime, the hype of the community was out of this world. Roof Piece was trending for days when the fight started and gave us some of the best One Piece episodes of all time. 10 out of 10. Number 1, Luffy vs Kaido. You all knew it was coming. Of course, number 1 is Luffy vs Kaido. This fight starts at the end of Roof Piece and goes on for an unimaginably long time. While writing this script, I had to decide whether I could talk about this fight for 10 minutes or 2, because I can go far beyond 10 minutes if I wanted to. To put things simply, this is one of the best fights in One Piece, if not the best. Personally, my favorite is still Luffy vs Katakuri, but that's just me. Anyways, Luffy vs Kaido is Kaido's true display of strength, knocking out Luffy twice and even killing him at one point. Kaido had run through a gauntlet fighting the Red Scabbards, the Worst Generation, Luffy by himself, Yamato, and finally Luffy again. Kaido makes Luffy go through 2 separate evolutions on top of him having to learn Ryo and Udon. I mentioned earlier that Luffy had died at some point. Well, this brings up the peak of the fight, Gear 5. I remember being in school the day spoilers for the chapter drop, and it was honestly unavoidable no matter where you looked. Spoilers were on YouTube, they were on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, especially Twitter. It was impossible to avoid getting spoiled. You had to avoid any type of social media for that day. And the community exploded. This is by far the most hype I've seen the One Piece community get, and I don't think it'll be passed until Luffy finds the actual One Piece. The lore behind Gear 5 is amazing, and this is one of the things I truly think Oda had been planning from the beginning of the story. And don't get me started on Gear 5's fighting style. This is genuinely one of the most fun I've ever had reading a fight. Luffy practically turned into a Looney Tunes character, giving us some of the best choreography in the whole series. This is an amazing fight, and I don't think anything will match it anytime soon. 11 out of 10.
So lead us. Can't handle us. So cool, big scandalous. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So cool.